Hi, and welcome to a special election edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Monday, September 19th, 50 days before the November 8th election. And I'm very pleased first to welcome Gwynn Lurie, editor-in-chief of the Montecito Journal, with whom Newsmakers is collaborating on this series of online election forums focused on education at all levels in our community. Hi, Gwynn.
Jerry.
And today we will be speaking with three candidates for the Santa Barbara Unified School District Board of Education Trustee Area 1. Henry, stop. All right, Henry. I'm sorry, I apologize.
I put my dog away too.
Hey, come here.
Okay, like that way I won't feel bad if my dogs bark. So
no, he's like Alfred Hitchcock.
Watch out for my chickens.
Okay. All right. So introducing our candidates, they are in alphabetical order with their ballot designations: Efgenia Effie Banales, whose ballot designation is retired educator; Gabe Escobedo, identified as student affairs professional; and Dan LeBerge, executive director / parent. Thanks all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to speak with us. The format's pretty informal. We'd like to keep it as conversational as possible. We'll rotate questions between the candidates, and they each have about 1 minute to answer. And at the end of the program, each will have time to deliver a closing statement. And with that, Gwynn.
Okay, I think you did a great job with the brief bio, so I'm going to move on. We're going to start with you, Effie. Can you tell us what is the role of a Santa Barbara City District School Board member, and why do you want to sit on that board?
Well, I think that the Spanish community, the Spanish-speaking community, needs more representation in the school board. The Spanish community tends to be very quiet, not very outspoken. And the participation, what I have seen so far, even throughout the years that I have worked for the school district, with students, with parents, with teachers, I know that they don't participate actively, not because they don't want to, because a lot of them, they feel that they don't have the skills or the voice to speak up what is in their mind. The school board, in my opinion, should be a parent advocate, a student advocate, and his or her role, it is very important in our community, in particular in our children's education. Our children are our future, and we need to embrace that. We need to help parents to support their kids in their education. Education is the key. When the education is low, our society goes really low. We need more programs for our children.
Thank you very much.
Gabe, can you answer that same question? What is the role of a school board member, and why do you want to serve on the board?
Yeah, it's a good question. And one of the lenses I look at this through is the relationship that a board of directors has with the executive director of a nonprofit. I'm currently on the board of Standing Together to End Sexual Assault and Cause. And so I have a lot of experience operating in the role of that board of directors. It's setting up the executive director, in this case, the superintendent, up for success. Effie hits on a lot of good points. I think too often in government, we fall back on what the minimum requirement is or what the go-to method for outreach is. We could be doing a whole lot more to reach monolingual Spanish-speaking parents, to get out resources, information for receiving their feedback, and other things. And I see the role of a school board member of just setting the superintendent up for success, setting clear expectations and goals, and then creating a plan in acquiring resources to get there.
Thank you.
Dan.
Having served on multiple school boards, the executive board at Adelante Charter School, PTSO, and Site Council, while as a board member, it is definitely our role to act as a conduit of information, both coming from our stakeholders. So that's everything from children to teachers and especially parents, to funnel that information up and through the board so that things can be processed and managed and goals can be set so that a director, or in this case, a superintendent, can be guided to be successful. But in addition, that board also is accountable to make sure that the superintendent is held to task, making sure that these goals are being met, followed up on, and when things, as they are right now, seeming very tangled, that they address those issues as well. I want to serve on this board because I've been involved in schools ever since my child started at Adelante Charter School, the dual language immersion school here on the East Side 8 years ago. And I see a problem. I see a growing problem, and I just want to help. I want to participate in a bigger way.
Thank you.
Okay, I got the next one, Jerry, and then you're up. So the next one goes from Gabe to Dan to Effie. So Gabe, we're going to start with you. So Superintendent Maldonado, as you kind of just referred to, Dan, has had a tough go. And your most important job as a board member is to hire and guide, and if necessary, fire the superintendent and rehire a new superintendent. What is your assessment of the current situation in the Santa Barbara City School District?
I don't think it's a secret that there are a lot of frayed relationships between the administration and staff and teachers and parents out there. I think the last 2 years have been hard on us all. I think there's been a lot of change. I think when you bring in a new superintendent who's looking to do some big things really quickly, that it's a lot for a lot of folks. And what I'm hearing most about the conversations I'm having with staff, teachers, and also administrators from other school districts is a lot of times folks don't feel heard. They don't feel like they have a voice in the process. And then also they don't know exactly where we are in the process. And so I was speaking with an administrator from another school district, and they were talking about the idea of deep transparency. And that means having a two-way channel, one that is open, one where the input is really taken seriously, and then also being brave enough to explain what you know and what you don't know. So if someone asks you a question, and a really hard question, and you know part of it, saying exactly that, here's what I know right now, and here's what we need to find out. Doing that, I think, is vulnerable, but it goes a long way in building those relationships. And that's really what we need. It's a role I've played in other roles that I've played in the city, and it's one that I can do on the school board.
Thank you.
Dan.
I too have done my time serving on a school board and watched the coming and going of multiple directors at Adelante, some more contentious than others. The feedback that I've received doing significant outreach to both teachers and exiting staff from leadership is that there's a great deal of toxicity in the superintendent's inner circle or even those outer circles. This fallout has come from either lack of planning, poor fit, or a combination of the both. I know that they are doing their due diligence to ensure the superintendent has time to adapt and adjust and grow into this role, but it's sooner or later, accountability must be measured. We cannot replace the institutional knowledge that's been lost now from 40 some odd administrators departing abruptly. So it is important that this is something that's taken very seriously, because those ripple effects and optics play throughout the entire school system.
All right. Thank you.
Effie?
Yes, the role of a superintendent is very crucial. We need someone that can identify with our community. Over the years, over the past, since my work with the Santa Barbara Unified School District in 1985, I have seen several superintendents. At first, years ago, back in 1989, we only had one superintendent and one assistant superintendent. It was working fine, and then eventually, and I agree with Dan when he said that there is a lot of toxicity around. People bring superintendents, they bring their own people, they place some in areas in which they're not fully they don't know what they're doing, and some they cannot identify with our community. Our community in Santa Barbara is very high. Is Spanish speaking, a lot of them. I know there are, thank God, our superintendent speaks Spanish, but at the same time, we need to start, instead of outsourcing for personnel at a high level, we can always hire someone within our community that knows our story, that knows what's going on, that needs to be transparent, it needs to be clear with the parents, it needs to, the partnership, we need that partnership between the parents, the administrators, the community to reach a common goal, which is our students. Also, in regards to the allocation of the monies, we really need to focus into our students. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see, who's first? Dan goes first.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a lot of divisiveness about the comprehensive sex education curriculum, which continues. What are your thoughts about kids learning about gender identity in school, about learning what do you think the appropriate grade level is? And do you consider that grooming, as some have alleged?
Well, first and foremost, the Unified School District is following the guides of the state. The Healthy Child Act provides us clear guidelines and expectations as far as what is to be taught in and around sex education. And although there is some room for individuality in the classroom, science has clearly shown the more education the kids get at younger ages, the better they are prepared to protect themselves, to avoid unwanted advances, to avoid adolescent pregnancies, disease, and so on and so forth. We have followed that guidelines in our own home with our 3 children, using anatomically correct descriptions of their body parts to make sure that these things are not stigmatized, that there is no confusion about them, that these are nothing to be ashamed of, but these are something that they control and that it is their, and that should be the guide as well throughout our school system. As we also note that our children are very different. All 3 of them are distinct, and that's true within a school system. And so I think administrators and the individual teachers need to be aware that maybe some children aren't at the right age to receive that information. And that might have to be handled on a case-by-case situation.
Thank you. Effie?
Oh, my turn?
Yeah, sex education.
Oh, sex education. Yes, there was a lot of controversy between the hard curriculum and the Teen Talk, and our district adopted the Teen Talk. My concern is, and was and still is that there was not a lot of Latino parent involvement. It is very important, it's very crucial that all our parents are informed. I know there were some flyers, but also the meeting was way too short. It just gave the parents a week and to communicate about each other. I think that how early can we teach sexual education? I think it needs to be tailored to the grade level. I think the Teen Talk, I have talked to parents, and some had expressed their concern because it is the Teen Talk, the program that we have now is too explicit, is too graphic, and for us, for our culture, the Spanish-speaking culture, it's kind of offensive. So we know that we need to have children aware of what is going on, especially when things that are happening all over our country, all over the world. But it needs to be tailored according to the needs. And I agree with Dan. It would be case to case. I think the ultimate, our parents are the ones that are teaching them sexual education at early age. I will imagine, for personal experience, I think from junior high and high school, yes, needs to be a little bit more specific, but at elementary level, it is too early.
Okay, fair enough. Gabe?
Yeah, as Dan related to, this is state law, and it's very explicit about what is spoken about in terms of sex education. Our sex education in particular is comprehensive. It talks about everything from anatomy to abstinence to consent, which is really important. It's something that we talk a lot about at the university campus and how you integrate that in conversations earlier. And for parents who are concerned about this education, they have the right to pull their child out of this curriculum. That's a part of the state law as well. So I think that this is comprehensive sex education is great for social emotional learning. It creates positive behaviors in terms of consent, and it also is shown to protect against unwanted teenage pregnancies and STIs. It just makes sense on so many levels. And I believe the curriculum we have is appropriate and age appropriate and comprehensive.
Okay, thank you. Probably the other most controversial issue over the last few years before the school board has been a debate about ethnic studies, which is a requirement in California. And as you all know, the Santa Barbara district actually went a year or two early on that. What do you see as the purpose of ethnic studies? And do you think that it is the school's responsibility to encourage kids to become social change agents for social justice, as it states in the curriculum? Effie?
It's me, I'm sorry. Effie?
Yes, Effie.
Oh. Well, being bicultural, bilingual, for me, when I was growing up, what I learned about different cultures. What I see here in what I have seen throughout the school district, kids are very aware of their surroundings. Yes, we need to teach the kids to be tolerant. We need to teach students that people are coming from different backgrounds, and we need to respect that. We need that children are going to be more aware of their surroundings. We're not looking at people in color or size and shape. We're just looking at people in general. If you see children of different backgrounds in the playground, they get along very well. It's us adults that make a difference. So if we encourage our children to be tolerant, to be open-minded, to accept other people's differences, we're going to make this world even better.
Thank you. Thank you. Gabe, I guess, huh?
Yeah, this is another one of those topics that is a state requirement. Now, much of the conversation is not whether or not we teach ethnic studies, it's what are we teaching and what are we including? And we should all be reminded that, yes, this was a controversial topic at the school board meetings, but we had students, dozens and dozens of students show up and say, I want to learn about an accurate history and my history. And that's really, really important, especially for adults, to remember that students should have some agency in talking about and learning about their history. For your question about should we be teaching people to be, I forget what the exact word is, but like social...
change agents for social justice.
I think we should all be change agents for social justice. I think that is a bare minimum requirement. We have a lot of work to do. We've made some progress and we've had some really good conversations, especially in the last 2 years, but we have so much further to go. And if you look at this next generation of students and people, they're ready to have those conversations and they're bringing some different perspective that we have not had included in a very long time.
Thank you. Dan?
First of all, I fully support a rich and diverse educational opportunity, including all ethnic studies. The broader the base of education, the reduction in ignorance, the more accepting we are of others and the way of life of things that we are not familiar with. They say that about travel, and sometimes you don't have to travel far, and maybe it's just another classroom to open people's eyes. But racism is very alive and well in our community, and the greater opportunities we can learn about other backgrounds, history, and cultures, as well as create more shared opportunities or shared experiences for our kids, the less these barriers become as relevant. When you put a group of kids on the same team, nothing seems to matter except being on that team and winning. And right now we have a lot of division in our schools. And ethnic studies can lead at least some of those kids down that path. As far as change agents, I don't think that we should expect it of them, but I think it prepares them to be. It allows them and empowers them. And always that's a great idea. If we can empower our children to think and act and do, and to whatever, guys, let's hope it's in positive manners. That's why we want diverse education.
Thank you.
So COVID profoundly disrupted our children's lives and really exposed some probably already existing vulnerabilities within our education system. Most notably, we've seen severe declines in student achievement and really some very serious mental health repercussions. What would you do? I know this is a rather broad question, but how would you approach this as a school board member? What do you think we can do to ensure academic recovery and mental wellness on our campuses?
I think it goes to Dan first.
That goes to Dan.
Because this is so broad, may I suggest a little longer time on this question?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. It goes to Gabe first, actually, and then it goes to Dan, and then it goes to Effie.
Oh, all right.
In my career, we talk a lot about wellness, and we talk about the different dimensions of wellness. And one of those is academic, because we deal with students quite a bit. And others are emotional wellness and social wellness. And there are so many different dimensions. We need to provide support for the whole student, because our students will not be able to focus academically if they are not taken care of emotionally and physically, and a myriad of ways. And what COVID did is really expose some of the inequities that existed far before, and didn't only expose them, but put them into hyperdrive. So I draw from my personal experience. My mother worked multiple jobs. That meant when I was home, we did not have supervision. We did not have we didn't have support doing our homework and all of those things. Imagine if the whole school day was like that. It becomes really hard to expect a student virtually to have all of the support that they need. And then you talk about the exclusion from friends and what that does and what they missed out on. It's really going to have to be a total support system, a multifaceted support system that we're providing for our students. That means additional teacher aides in the classroom. That means mental health workers that are available for our students. That also means providing resources for our teachers and staff so that they can better support our students when they're find students in distress. I know here at UCSB, we have, on our very first day, we get a manual that is very explicit about a variety of situations that you might find a student. It tells you how to interact with that student so that you don't make it worse, and then what resources are available that you can connect them with. We need to have something like that at the school district for our students to take care of the whole student, not just focus on academics, because they can't excel in academics if other parts of their wellness are not thriving as well.
Thank you, Gabe. Dan.
Thank you. The mental health crisis is very clear. The district is doing its best to tackle that. They've just added 6 new counselors, but from the feedback I've gotten, it's not even beginning to scratch the surface of enough. The legislators are attempting to push through legislation to provide greater access to mental wellness in our schools. Unfortunately, politics are getting in the way. They're actually infighting and not willing to even hear bills to address these issues up in Sacramento. This is a crisis of proportions we haven't faced before. And as Gabe mentioned, it ripples over to academic success. But we can't fool ourselves. We weren't on a positive trajectory before COVID, and it's clear academically, yeah, it's not really, there's no crisis plan to really put us back on any positive path. So with the support of both mental health professionals and hopefully instigating training for all our teachers and administrators to act as support agents to our children, we then also need to create more diverse educational opportunities. I mean, really diverse educational curriculum so that students get excited that they want to be there. This can't just focus on core academics anymore. This is about engagement, getting them excited about something so they're less weighed, less anchored in the past, and they're moving forward, they're moving towards something, they're moving together. And this means a complete overhaul. And I think that we're long overdue. We see that our facilities are aging. We see that our academic outcomes are suffering. We see that our children are suffering. We need a serious plan, both short-term and long-term, to move away from this. And I think that, for me as a parent, this is where it becomes very relevant. I spent an hour and a half last night sitting with my son. He's afraid to go to school. He's afraid because of the shootings. He's afraid of just what happened because of Bishop Diego. He's afraid because bullying has gone just through the roof since he's even come back since last year. He doesn't feel safe at school. One of his friends is talking about getting a Kevlar hoodie. It can be 95 degrees outside and kids are wearing hoodies because it gives them some sense of safety and some sense of comfort, like a weighted blanket of sorts. This needs to be addressed and addressed in a big way.
Thank you.
Effie.
Yes. Well, we know that our district is in crisis, and it's all over the country, all over the world. Particularly in our district, the problem, it didn't start with the COVID. It was COVID, during COVID, and still is after COVID. I can tell from my own experience throughout my 28 more years of working with students, I know that there are crises that have not been addressed, and one of them was the mental health. I'm glad that there are communities involved. I'm glad that there's communities out there and groups that are helping our kids, but we need to partner with our parents. The district really need to welcome our parents, need to have an open policy so the parents address their concerns. We need to put our children first. And yes, we also need to focus in math, in reading and science, in mental health. We need, and I agree with both of the other candidates, that we need to have more counselors in our schools to help our kids that for fear of something happening, they either don't come to school, which happened during COVID, even with hybrid schedule, that some were supposed to be coming to school and they didn't, and so they stay home. And we need to interact with them as an instructional assistant, as a teacher, as a parent, as an administrator. It's very important that we address those concerns. We need to talk. We need to be open to all this crisis and bring the resources to our schools. Is very important in mental health. If a child is happy, and I agree with Dan, they perform well. If a child is fearful, they don't. And just like I experienced with his son, I experienced with my granddaughter. She one of my grandkids, one is 6 years old. Once the masks were off, her teacher gave him the opportunity to wear or not wear the mask. Guess what? She kept on wearing the mask. I would pick her up to school and I said, just take it off. It's okay. She said, no, because then I'm going to be infected. And I said, no, you will be fine. And especially kids are more resilient. Adults, we're more fragile to that. So yes, definitely partner with everyone around the community. Thank you.
All right.
My next question is about school safety, and you all in one way or another sort of touched on it. So I'm going to just make it a very specific question, because I think we can all agree our kids need to feel safe going to school, whether that has to do with bullying or gun violence. Last year, there was a really unfortunate incident at the junior high school with a kid being really bullied, and racially, I guess you would even call it hateful language was used against him. Do you feel that the school board handled that situation well? And how would you have handled it? Okay, and let's start with Dan.
Dan.
First of all, I don't think they handled it well. I think they could have been more, set a better example, a stronger example. There can be zero tolerance for this. This 3-strike rule, this let's sit down and sort of mediate, this has to end, because there can be no tolerance for this kind of behavior. Being one that grew up undersized, the youngest in my class, and now seeing something similar with my son, bullying was something part of growing up, and you just sort of accepted it. And I didn't really think that when I sent my children to school, I thought things would be better. And if anything, they're worse. They're much more escalated. The vulnerability, bystanderism, not enough willingness to step up and do the right thing it's clear it's still rampant within our schools. And the kids, along with happiness, they need to feel safe. They need to feel like this is an environment where I'm not going to be singled out. I'm not going to be harmed. I'm not going to be threatened. I'm not going to be pointed out that I'm different. So they can thrive. So they're there, so they can do what they're there to do, and that's learn, to excel, to grow social, connections, and to mature.
So obviously, when Jerry was asking before about being change agents, I think that's really what he was referring to, was being upstanders and all of that. Effie.
Yes, I don't think that the school handled the situation correctly, and it should have been they should watch out for signs of violence and bullying. Some kids, I know they're very quiet, others are very outspoken. That's why we need more counselors. If we have, say, more than 1,500 students in a school and there's only 4 counselors, just divide in 4 and that will tell about 400 more or less. And so if you only have 1 counselor for as a matter of fact, we need more personnel. We also need more assistants, instructional assistant, paraeducator, teachers, however you want to call it. And we need to hire more personnel in order to help out our kids. Mental health is an issue. Being safe, when you drop your kids or your grandkids at the school, they're in the hands of the school. And we need to trust our teachers. We need to trust our staff, and we need to communicate with them. Because one thing is when our kids change a little bit within the school, some don't, so become more passive or become more aggressive. And it's important to keep a watch, an eye on them.
Thank you so much, Effie. Gabe.
So I don't know that we can judge it right now, but I will say that where we all have fallen short is in culture. Because a lot of times when these situations happen, we point to a bad apple and we say, okay, we need to punish that bad apple, no tolerance, let's get that person out of here type of thing. And really what it stems from is a much larger, broader, and let's face it, tougher problem to crack. And it means, yes, trainings, yes, it means more mental health professionals on campus, but it also means creating spaces on campus for those students to feel safe and find their community. So it means supporting Black student groups. It means supporting Chicano student groups, students with disabilities, LGBTQ+, and really creating those opportunities to have events thrown by those students where you get to interact with someone you may not have interacted with that lived a completely different life experience. That contributes to the type of culture that we're talking about. When you have teachers that reflect the diversity of the student body and administrators, that breeds the culture that we're talking about. I think there's an opportunity, and I'll wrap up on this. There's an opportunity. There's going to be a racial equity study done this fall, and actionable items need to come out of that. And if I'm on the school board, I will make sure that happens.
Yeah, let me just go to the 2 different things I hear Dan and Gabe saying here for a second. I mean, the incident we're talking about is a couple of kids reenacted the George Floyd incident on a Black kid. Mm-hmm. Dan, you're saying, there should be no tolerance for that, and they kind of namby-pambied around it instead of taking, very strict action. Gabe, you're saying, well, there's a broader issue here that we need to look at. What was the correct thing to do in the moment? Dan?
Well, in the moment, I mean, we look at what happened to the officers that ended George Floyd's life. They're in prison. And there can be no tolerance. Examples must be set. People have to understand there are limits in social behavior. And while I appreciate what Gabe's saying, that there are a lot of cross-cultural barriers that need to come down, that kind of behavior cannot be tolerated in our society and not in our schools.
So are you saying put the kids in prison?
No, I'm just saying that that's not the right environment for them. They need to be put in a different environment and something where they can be more supported, more controlled, less options to cause harm to others. And so whether that is some kind of a school that allows them to learn and grow so they can regain to the central population, or something to where they can get counseling and the support they need, work with their parents and bring them in to involve and create a whole unit of healing. But in the meantime, they're not safe to their fellow students, and that's not okay.
Gabe?
So a lot of there are terms that you use, Dan, that echo to incarceration, right? And a lot of zero tolerance policies. And I know this was egregious, this was horrible, and this was anti-Blackness, but not all accountability looks like taking students out of the environment and shunning them away to completely somewhere else until they are ready to join the general population. There is a way to have accountability and learning outcomes for folks. And restorative justice is one of those ways. And one of the hardest, we think if you throw someone out and you throw them into prison and in prison cell, like that is punishment. You know, one of the hardest punishments you can have is having a conversation with the person you harmed and talking to them about how you're going to restore the harm that you did. That's really tough. If we think about all of our strongest relationships we've had and the tough conversations we've had to have, those are far harder than the people that we met one time and stopped talking to us because we offended them. I just think there's so many better ways.
I totally support restorative justice. I absolutely do. But there are certain lines when they're crossed, they have to be recognized. And, you know, and while I use terms that may assimilate incarceration, we have too many children who are already in a vulnerable state. And so we're going to just create examples and allow examples to be accepted that make them feel even more unsafe. But that's what we're doing. We're tolerating it. We're allowing it. And our populations right now are just, we have too many children that are too fragile at school. We have to, you know, on certain times, the board has to go with the majority here. They have to protect the mass. They can't always protect the one.
Okay, let's go to Effie, get her answer on this. It's fair to have different approaches and to not agree on the right approach. Effie.
Well, when there is a violence in school and we know that the student has the tendency to be violent, I sort of agree with Gabe when it says it needs to be separated from the school, but not to put in the system and I will add also not to put in the system in which it would be very hard for him or her to get out of there. It is very hard for the parents to see their kids either suspended or expelled. If you expel the students without knowing the background of that student, without talking to the parents, without talking to the neighbors, without talking to the student first, and also the victim, I'm not saying that you're going to face them together, but you need to talk to them and you need to reach out an agreement. I'm pretty sure the parents will not agree with suspending their kids and just send them somewhere. They should not be confined. They should be they should be going with their classmates. Maybe there's another area in which within the school they can be those students and give the resources to continue on with the rest of the classmate, even to see okay, he's there, we can support him and support all of our students. I know I feel for those students that are harmed, and we need to find the resources, put the resources in to work so our kids are safe, all of them.
Thank you. Let me ask you kind of a political question. I mean, every election is about who wins the argument about, the definition of the election. What is the election about? I wonder if you would each briefly state what the rationale for your candidacy is and why you think it is a better choice for voters as opposed to your opponents. Who's going first here? Effie? Gwen?
That's fine. That's fine, Effie.
Why is your candidacy better?
I'm bilingual, bicultural. I've been in the community for 37 years. I've been in this area and I've been working in different areas. I've worked at that with Franklin School, which is the Lower East Side. I went to the Mesa. I went downtown. I went to the Riviera, working with the high school students. I interacted with many parents, with a diverse, our community is very diverse. I identify with my community. I identify particularly in the East Side. I did work also the West Side with the Lacombe Regional High. I interacted and acted. I partnered with the parents. I was a facilitator, so the parents will know the rights and where to go, not to stay just in one person in our school, but go above and beyond. Even go with the school board, which they have their position is very, very crucial. Our children need to be supported, and our parents as well.
All right, Gabe.
I think at a time when we are seeing students experience tremendous learning loss, and so many other challenges, they need a representative that understands what it's like to go through that and what it's like to be lucky to have the right resources there at the right time. That is my journey, my educational journey. This is the first time that this school district will have a minority majority district. They need representatives that understand the type of struggles that not only themselves, but their families are going through, and bringing that perspective, listening, hearing out those voices, and taking that to school board meetings and advocating for policies that address a lot of those challenges. We have a long way to go, and even further because of COVID. There's a lot of resources out there that we have not taken advantage of that can really help us address where we're falling short and where we have fallen short. I think much of my time in the community translates to this role. We have broken relationships at the school district. I've been in those roles of repairing those relationships. I understand government, I understand policy. And I want to use those skills that I've had in other roles for our students, our teachers, and our staff.
Fair enough. Dan?
Thank you. I seek this role on the school board mostly because I'm a parent. Once Laura Capps leaves the board, we talk about representation. There will be no lens of that of a parent with kids in school. The idea that somehow we're being elected by this minority majority district doesn't speak to the fact that the board is already so fortunate to be racially diverse. I would be fortunate just to work with those individuals and work in their mentorship. I've spent time with both Wendy Sims-Moten and Virginia Alvarez, and their knowledge, their experience, their background, their history is amazing. And I don't have to come in and learn it from scratch. I can learn as I go and participate in a process to which I have vast experience within our schools. I have a business degree. I have an MBA. I've vested in my education and want to make sure that our children have the same opportunity. But I really come at this as a parent who is so passionate about the opportunities and outcomes for all our children. We've been entrenched for the last 15 years on the Lower East Side in a home that my wife's great-grandfather built. We go to a bilingual, bicultural, more than bicultural, multicultural school. We're invested and committed in this community in so many ways. I run a nonprofit that targets the most vulnerable in our community to support them. I'm very prepared to take on this role and looking forward to it as well.
Thank you. All right, we got we're about 45 minutes in. So Gwen, you want to take one more question and then closing statements, or do you?
Yeah, I actually want 1.5 more questions.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like that was a little bit of a closing statement there. We got kind of the bigger overall. So just a couple of things, if you'll indulge me, Jerry. Dan, you first, then Effie, then Gabe. So, you know, there are a variety of schools in the Santa Barbara School District. Some are on an upward trajectory,
right?
In terms of scores, like Franklin and some others. Others, like Cleveland, have been struggling for generations. What specifically do you see in schools like Franklin that could translate to some of the other schools that are struggling? Dan.
Well, powerful administration that feels very supported is one. Principal Kilgore has made it no secret that her success has come on the back of the parents. She drove people to the PTSO, or their PTA. Their engagement, their involvement, and that's no rocket science here, that determines student outcome. When parents are involved, or they're fortunate enough to be involved, that creates a much easier inroads for success for their children. If there's a problem, a misunderstanding, a missed assignment, dog eat my homework, something like that, and you know that you've got parents that are engaged and committed and following through, you can create better outcomes for your kids.
But some districts have a lot of working parents who don't have the same time that other districts have. So
but I would say that's very true of the Lower East Side. We're entrenched with families that are living multiple families to a household, working multiple jobs, but she has found a way, and through her own perseverance and dedication, that's helped turn the corner of Franklin School from a way that when we looked at it 8 years ago, we were a little worried about whether that was a good fit for our eldest. And just to watch it blossom over these last years really comes on the shoulder of her efforts. But she's partnered with those parents, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Effie, thank you, Dan. Effie?
Yes. The success, which I'm really praised to Ms. Kilgore, is that her school, when I was working, that it was getting, at one point it was very low. And when Ms. Kilgore came along, the first thing she did was talking to parents. She brought a program for parents in the after school, in the evening, which was the Parent Institute for Quality Education, PIC. That program was first taught at La Cumbre Junior High, which through when Mrs. Kane was the principal. I was part of that of that group of facilitators. I talked to parents, and when the parents are involved, you get big successes. You need to communicate with parents. You need to focus on the kids, on what it really matters: the safety, the education, their well-being, mental, physical, emotional. If you connect with your parents, you will have a successful school. If you close the doors to your parents, that's it, you're doomed. Our system can work. We can see when La Cumbre Junior High, when Mrs. Keynes took over, math scores went up.
Okay, Gabe, thank you.
Yeah, I think Franklin is a perfect example. It's an example where, yes, Ms. Kilgore embraced parent involvement and sought out opportunities for parents to give input. But there's also the part, and its genius is not only seeking input or having parents involved, but finding resources for parents and families, finding additional resources to address a lot of the challenges that families are facing, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's taking advantage of the earned income tax benefit, which a lot of low-income families leave on the table, which is a valuable opportunity. Those are opportunities that the Franklin Center is doing after school. And it's resources not just for the student, it's for the family. Because when the family is doing okay, when there are fewer stressors at home, the child has more room to focus on their studies. They have more room to focus on the things that they enjoy, whether it's art, sports, all of the things that they find interesting that keep them engaged at school, that make them want to go to school, want to go see their friends. So that is the true success. That's why it's not just about being Chicano, it's about the life experience that comes with that and the challenges and the role that plays into the student's education. It's really, really important. And that's one of the pathways to success.
Okay. Thank you. Jerry, can I throw out the half question?
Go for it.
We throw around a lot of terms like equality, equity, diversity, inclusion. Can you define equity and can you define inclusion? Effie?
Equity is mean equal. Treat everyone the same way. Treat them with respect, and so you will receive respect in exchange. What was equity? What was the other one? I'm sorry. Inclusion. We need to include all the kids. We need to give them the same opportunities. If we put a cluster of students, say, and I'll give you one example. I work at Washington School. We have the magnet program, the GATE program. Why don't we, all the kids are in the GATE program? We test them all. And if they miss it for one decimal, let's put them together. Let's give them the opportunity. Let's give them the opportunity to participate in Math Super Bowl, Spelling Bee. Let's put them also, let's give them more challenges, because if you give the minimum, that's what the minimum going to give you. And sometimes just IDK is not enough. Give equal opportunity to everyone.
Thank you, Gabe.
To me, equity is about outcomes. It's about measuring outcomes in a variety of ways: academic success, career success, opportunities that are presented for our students. Our students should graduate with full agency to make whatever choice, career choice, life choice that they want, and they should be set up after TK through 12 in our school district to do exactly that. And that means sometimes more resources go to the support the students that need it. And that's not a zero-sum situation where more resources to those students is taking away from other students. I think that's a false narrative. It's positive sum, we all gain. And in terms of inclusion, it means that we're breaking down the barriers and we're changing the culture. So one, every student feels welcome in all spaces in our school district. But Effie pointed out another one. It's also in these opportunities in the magnet programs and career technical programs and that set students up for higher education later and success. We also need to look at those processes to make sure that there's some equity there too in terms of the application processes. So yeah.
Dan.
So to me, equity is definitely about outcomes. When we look at achievement at any level, it's about providing whatever resources are needed to bring everyone up to the same potential. And as a father of 3 children, I can't always be perfectly equitable, but I can recognize what the outcomes that are desired and try to balance the scale on providing that support. And that's, to me, what my lens as, again, a parent, that's how I approach equity. It's because you can't always just give everyone the same tools and then expect them to succeed. It has to be something where it's balanced, where it's measured, where it's calculated, and then revisited to determine whether it works. Inclusion has to go beyond just having an open door and open arms. It has to be also reaching through that door and letting people know and students know they're welcome, supporting them with information, supporting them with liaisons, supporting them with one of the things I really believe in, again, is shared experience, so they can have a vested interest in each other and that mutual outcome. So being inclusive there means just really, really reaching beyond the boundaries like teammates do on anything, whether it's a chess club, debate club, football team, whatever it may be, where they're bonded together in something larger than themselves.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
All right. So we'd like to give each of you, I don't know, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. You speak directly to voters. You don't have to listen to our snarky questions anymore. Just
I didn't think we were so snarky.
Only Jerry.
I mean, yours were, mine weren't. You know, just why you should again be elected, and who are we starting with here, Gwen?
We're starting with Dan, and then we're going to Effie, and then we're going to Gabe.
Fair enough.
We just kind of rotated all the way through. It just landed that way.
So I'm going to just reiterate what I said before. I'm coming at this from the lens of a parent. Our board is going to lose that lens once Laura Capps leaves. It is a lens that is not something that can be obtained by reading a book or a report. It is not something that is found in policy and politicking. It's something that is learned and earned. We were very well read when we became parents and found ourselves floundering with our first child, trying to figure out the most basic of problem solving. But over time and experience, it has given us the opportunity to not only immerse in our children's lives, but those of their friends and their schoolmates. It's made us part of a community that we feel incredibly connected to, and I'm willing to fight for whatever it takes. I am not a believer in, if it's worked that way all the time, let's continue doing it. We need to do better. We need to raise the bar across the board. We definitely need to make mental health a priority. We need to make student outcomes a factor of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Effie.
Yes, thank you for the question. The system is broken. We know that, and we need to fix it. We need to put our students first. We need early intervention. We need to stop doing what doesn't work and bring back what it does work for our students academically wise, would be based, the phonics would be math. Our kids, even at a high school level, they're not performing at grade level. Some of them, they don't even know how to read or write at grade level. They're really behind. It is important, it is imperative for us to be able to communicate. I'm not sure if Dan and Gabe are fully bilingual, but I'll presume that I'm the only person that can really talk to the Spanish-speaking parents. I would like to address them in Spanish as well, so they'll know that I can understand where they're coming from. I walk in their shoes. I've been living in the neighborhood. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to go to the bus stop and you see all kinds of things that the kids should not be exposed to, defecation, urine, and unfortunately, that's what we pick up and we drop off the students. I'm talking just one particular stop, which is on Montecito, which is behind me. Not Montecito, the city, but Montecito Street and Quarantina. It is horrible. We need to protect our kids. We need to support our teachers, our parents, and work together with the administration.
Thank you. Gabe?
Gabe.
Yeah, so I've spoken a little bit about myself and about the fact that this is a minority district, but at the end of the day, it's about the students. And my goal for this is similar to every other endeavor that I've had, whether it's Planning Commission, Community Formation Commission, is giving those who do not have a part of the process currently, do not feel comfortable joining in on the process, giving them a voice, going out and finding their voice and bringing it into policy. I've been successful in policy making, and each of those issues touched my life dearly, whether it was housing. I know what housing insecurity is like. Criminal justice system, I know what it's like not to have members of your family in your life because of the incarceration system. And education, I know what it's like to not feel like education is for you, but to have some really important resources and important people there at the right time, willing to be there for you. Our students shouldn't rely on luck to have all of those opportunities. They should graduate with the full agency to make those choices for themselves. And it's our job to set the stage for them and let them take advantage of it. And that's my goal. And so I ask everyone watching for your vote. And if not, I still want to hear from you about your perspective. And yeah, thank you all. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Dan and Effie. This has been really enlightening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank all of you for joining us, Efigenia Benales, Gabe Escobedo, and Dan LaBerge. We know it's difficult to be a political candidate. Put yourself out there to all of the slings and arrows to everyone who knows best, and particularly snarky people like Gwen and myself. as well. So we really appreciate your time, and we appreciate your candidacy and your commitment to the community. And good luck in all of your campaign.
And can I add one thing, Jerry? That serving on a school board, having served on our local school board here for 8 years, is not easy, and you definitely don't do it to win popularity contests. So we appreciate you guys, what you're doing. It's a really important job. So thank you.
I just want to thank you both for creating this forum and getting actually to see Gabe and hear Iphigenia for the first time. It's been kind of a siloed up to this point. So it's very, very enlightening and much appreciated. Thank you both, and good luck to you both, Gabe and Iphigenia.
All right. Take care.